It's that time again when optimism meets reality. Today on Night of the Shield. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Night of the Shield. I'm your host, The Knight. Today we are talking about the Raiders, their joint practices against the San Francisco 49ers, and a little bit of when optimism meets reality. We are here once again. I do one of these every single year. Well, maybe I shouldn't say every single year, but in years past, this has been something that I've been known to do. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. I really do appreciate it. And if you've been rocking with me since day one, thank you guys so much for all your patience and time with me. This season is going to be a little different for me. We're definitely going to be taking a different angle. As you can see in the background behind me is my independently blind logo. For those, I know there's a few of you now that actually follow me on Independently Blind and actually on Facebook and really supported me over the past 6 going on 7 years outside of this Raider YouTube thing. And I just want to let you guys know I appreciate you. And a lot of my focus has gone there. I got some exciting things I'm working on with my brand Independently Blind and as far as helping my community here. And it's I'm going to try to tie things in together. So this is Night of the Shield, brought to you by the Independently Blind product. Or Independently Blind Studios. I guess I should say I'm in the Independently Blind Studios, as I would like to call it. And we're going to be talking some Raider football. In the future, I'll be bringing on some guests who will also be legally blind. And I am actually going to be bringing in a producer to help me do live shows. And I can't wait to introduce you to that individual. It's very special, but I'll wait till that happens here in the coming weeks. But let's go ahead and kick things off, and let's get things started by talking about the Raiders and the joint practices. Before we get into that, there's a lot I want to get into when it pertains to this team this year, especially as from an optimism perspective. Ever since training camp, I follow a lot of you, all right? And let's take it back a little. I remember when I first started YouTube and talking Raider football, my primary goal, man, was obviously to help embrace the culture of the Raider Nation. I was able to meet a lot of amazing content creators and be a part of their lives. Shout out to Mikey, Raider Central, aka Raider Football Talk, and just Mikey in general, the pioneer of all of this. I want to be a big shout out to Byron, Raider Nation News, Raider John, Dylan. I think he's still Silver and Black Way. All those guys, man, they were here before me, and I always like to pay it forward and remember the times when I would watch these guys, and the media was just horrible. And I had a totally 100% fan perspective back then. It was, my shows were completely fan-fed, or the fanatic part fed. It's always going to be fan-fed because I am a fan. But, deeper more into the fanatic side where everything was gold, everything was perfect, everything was lovely. And as you mature in this thing and you really start to break things down differently as you look at the football team, as you come on here and you put your opinion out, perspective changes. Now, mainstream media and me still do not get along. I do not do the ESPNs of the world. I don't watch much NFL Network. But I've grown fond of a lot of the reporters that are out there. I mean, we're talking reporters now, right? We're talking people that are there on a consistent basis inside training camp, inside the media rooms. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to grow from. You get a different perspective. A lot of these guys are not Raider fans. There's a few, but very few. So when you hear them talk, you get upset. That's the one thing about Raider Nation that I notice. It's very easy to set us off. If you're not being positive or not negative enough, we're real finicky, right? And I try to now, I'm trying to be that guy that tries to step back a little bit and look at it from a different perspective. I'll never be able to get rid of my fandom. It's a part of me. It's part of my DNA. It's in my blood. I was raised a Raider fan. It is what it is. So I'm always going to have somewhat of a fan perspective, but I try to be a little bit more realistic when it comes to, especially what we're talking about today, my optimism. So let's go ahead and get started in that area. So number one, the offense. because this is something last year that was a strength. If you guys remember last year, optimism was high. Do you guys remember when the Raiders took on the Patriots in practice and we were lighting them up and our offense looked unstoppable? And at this point, DC had not thrown an interception. That was rumored and talked about a lot in these training camp videos and what have you. And then the regular season started and everything just fell apart. When our optimism met reality, it wasn't what we thought it was. And I bring that up specifically as it pertains to primarily Josh McDaniels, but Dave Ziegler as well. There's a lot riding on them when it comes to player and personnel, but primarily coaching for Josh McDaniels. A lot of people don't like the guy. And a lot of people don't like the guy because of his past, not necessarily because of his future. And I want us to really kind of key in on this year. This is a big year for Josh. I think there's a lot of us out in the Raider Nation or in the sports community that are looking at Josh McDaniels at this point and saying, okay, dude, this is your opportunity to prove it or lose it. Because last year, I'm willing to give a bye, and I know a lot of people are not going to like that take on that, but year one for some works out, sometimes it don't. And they said from the get they were trying to build a culture here. So Josh McDaniels bringing in a lot of Patriot people. I know a lot of people are upset about that. I hear about it all the time. The terminology Patriot West has been thrown out there. And I was talking to my good friend who you guys will meet here at some point on this channel. Patriot West. I mean, come on. I mean, name me a coach that hasn't gone coach somewhere else where they were assistant, became a head coach, or it was a head coach that changed teams. They're always going to bring back people that are familiar to them, people that they worked with in the past, whether that's coaching staff or players, and primarily because they want to build their culture and their identity. And if they can identify people that could help in that process, then that's what they do. So what Josh and Dave have done, bringing in guys like Jacoby Myers, Brandon Bolden, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jermaine Illuminor still being around. There's plenty of more Patriots that they brought over. Chandler Jones. We all know the usuals. There's coaches. There's players. It's because they're going to help implement what they're trying to do here, both from a culture perspective as well as just plain and simple scheme, understanding how he coaches, how to respond to his coaching. All of that is going to tie together. At least that's the plan, right? But if you're going to tell me that we're bringing the Patriot West here, a philosophy that's been proven over the past 20 years where they're competitive every year, and we could talk about Deflategate and Spygate and all that other nonsense. I'm not here for that. Okay, I'm not here. That's the past. And even Al Davis was quoted, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. There was a lot of rumors of us in the 60s and 70s that whether it were true or not, it was never proven. Even Deflategate, a lot of people came out and said a lot of people did what Brady was doing as far as like making the ball softer. Brady wasn't the only one doing it. He was just the only one caught. So we can hold that over his head. It is what it is. But if you're still going to give me a culture that has an opportunity to go on a 20-year run where they're constantly winning divisions, they're constantly playing in playoff games and championship games and winning Super Bowls, if we have an opportunity for that because this culture exists, I'm here for it. I'm just here for it. I'm not calling it the Patriot West. We're still the Las Vegas Raiders at this point. You're going to bring a culture in here that has an opportunity for that. And I think for the first time, from an optimism perspective, we are starting to see that come together from camaraderie. What's the biggest change on offense that we've seen? It's obviously the quarterback. Jimmy G has brought a different demeanor to the locker room. And it's not a knock on the guy that was here before. It's just sometimes change helps growth. It does. We resist change. We don't want change a lot. And I know there's a lot of people that didn't want the change, but change sometimes is inevitable. And when change happens, it either can be good or bad. Minus all the health issues Jimmy G might bring over here, he's a guy that has been proven to lead teams, to lead players, to make people better around him, to use the weapons that he has. And I'm excited to see that. And the cool thing is that we're not hearing a lot about that at this point in time. A lot of people are pointing out he's throwing a lot of interceptions. People are saying he's rusty, which all is true, right? Like Jimmy G is going to have some rust. He was hurt last year. There's a lot of things he hasn't done for quite a bit of time, and he's slowly implementing himself back into the football world again and throwing around, throwing to new receivers, learning a new offense. Not here to make those excuses. His record speaks for itself. When he's healthy, and he's utilizing the scheme, and his players around him are playing at a high level. You saw what he was doing last year before he got hurt. You got to be a little bit excited that if he can stay healthy, that this offense will at least have a chance to score points. Now, we saw last year where a lot of us will say the offense struggled, and it majorly did, primarily in the fourth quarter, right? Like, we had to deal with that all year long. But let's be real. The defense could have helped that out a lot, right? A lot of pressure on the offense, a lot of pressure on DC. He was throwing picks. Weird season. Optimism, once again, did not meet the reality in that situation. This year, it's a different story. There's not a lot of pressure on the offense at this point. All the focus has been pushed over to the defense, and that's where we're going to be heading here in a minute. But before I start really talking about the changes and what I'm seeing and what my perspective is on what is really happening over there on that side of the ball, you're going to have to give credit to both Josh and Dave collectively making the changes, building their culture, and putting people in place to succeed, something that we've been waiting for this organization to do for over 20 years. This precedes the 20 years, right? This was happening since 85 even, right? So I just wanted to say that, and let's give Josh a chance. There's a lot of good things happening for the players that Dave Ziegler has brought in here, and that's where I want to focus on the defense. I know there's some things I left out on offense purposely. We have plenty of time to talk about the Josh Jacobs and the Devontae Adams injury and all that as we move forward. Right now, my focus is on this particular week in this particular season one, week one, however you want to call it, preseason football against the 49ers, where the word is out there that we have dominated this team in 2 days of joint practices, and I beg to differ. I don't want to say that we've dominated. As a Raider fan, to hear that the defense played as well as it did, yeah, it really does feel like dominance for us because our defense has been so horrible. And let's take a look at that real quick. The attitude has changed. The first thing that we did is bring in Robert Spillane and Marcus Epps. And I will be honest, I watch a lot of Raider videos. I don't watch them all. I don't have that kind of time. I have an 8 to 5, and I have 3 kids in high school right now. I also have the Independently Brian project I'm working on. So I don't always have time to watch everybody. But the prime response to our free agency in general was not necessarily positive. A lot of fan opinion, right? But if you listen to some of the reporters, some of the people that are unbiased, and they're taking their just a football sport approach to it, said there was something about Robert Spillane that we didn't understand. They also said Marcus Epps was a good general. He was a good leader of men. You're seeing it. Those are the two things that stand out to me. Is they're not just there for their efforts. They're there because they're smart football players, and they're not just playing the sport or playing the position, they're coaching it. We have something at all levels now. So if we start with the defensive line, you got Crosby and Chandler Jones, both of them returning. Both of them were shouldering most of the load last season, a lot of pressure put on them. Our secondary was horrible. Our linebackers were injured a lot. We lost a lot of linebackers last year. We were weak in the middle, and that's all we had to talk about in the offseason was we need to boost up our secondary. We need a middle linebacker, and we definitely needed some bolstering in the middle of that defensive line. Have a lot of young players there. Tillery's coming back. You got Blah Nichols is going to be there. Those are kind of your veteran presence, people that you're looking at. You have Jenkins there that could implement himself and be something, but there's a slew of young guys coming up. They're making a noise in camp, and I'm excited to see where that defensive line and they got 2 ends that are really propping them up, and we're not seeing our rookie, our first-round pick, Tyrese out there. But here's the thing. If he lives up to the hype eventually, that's just going to be an added boost to this defensive line, whether it's week 1 or week 5. I really don't care because you got guys like Kuntz that are stepping up. He's making some plays out there. He's showing energy and great, pass rushing skills, something that we've seen in flashes. He's working on the run game. But you got 2 hype men in Jones and Crosby that are relentless. They're coaching these guys up. They're pushing them. They're motivating them. And I'm expecting a little bit of a boost from that group this year. They're going to be young and energetic in the middle, and you got 2 key studs with some great backups on the back end coming to give them breathers. Perfect. The next level of the defense, you got your linebackers. Now you bring in Robert Spillane. He's been talked about being right with Diablo. He's coaching Diablo aside. He's implementing. He's being the mic. He's lining people up. And this guy plays with intensity. He's got a motor. He's got this, put it this way, he's got the same energy and attitude as a Max Crosby, but in the middle of the defense, something that I believe that Perriman brought. And I'm going to miss the guy, right? But he was injured a lot too. Spillane in the past has been pretty durable. So, again, if that continues to move forward, again, I think we bolstered the middle of this defense very quietly, right? Very quietly. Guys that are not only playing the position, but they're raising the level of play of the players around them, and that's what makes good football teams, right? Now let's get into the secondary a little bit, especially that back end. Everybody ready to give up on Trevon Merrick. Merrick was a talk. I don't know if he'll make this team. You got some guy named Chris Smith coming in. He's hype. This guy's a baller. I think he could take Merrick out. If Merrick don't step up, he's done. That's all I've been hearing all offseason. And I actually started to believe it. I heard it so much, I started sitting there contemplating myself like, oh my God, Merrick's probably gone, which means there's another draft pick out of here. Along comes Marcus Epps. Now you're hearing that these guys are glued at the hip. They're like best friends. And what is happening? Not only is Marcus Epps making plays and doing what he does as a general on the field, lining up the secondary, making sure they're in the right spots, Trevon Merrick's game and energy has stepped up. Those are the reports. These are the optimism we're talking about right now, right? This is all optimism because we personally haven't seen it, and I guarantee you we're not going to see it Sunday either. We're not going to see it tomorrow when we're playing the Niners. You're going to have a lot of people just fighting for jobs, which is granted, but those practices are the real deal. You're going to get more out of those joint practices than you would a preseason game anyway. And these guys are hype. They're making plays. They're flying around the field. There's the level of play of our defense has raised because of it. Late addition to this Raider secondary, Marcus Peters, longtime Raider fan, Oakland native, beast of a corner. Takes the young rookie, working with Hobbs. Things are happening, right? We're picking balls off. The energy. Again, another guy brought in to be a general on the field, to lead by example, but also raise the level of play for those around him. Now we got Jacorian Bennett getting ready to be a starter. You got Hobbs moving back into the slot. And here's the beauty about our secondary. All I heard most of the offseason was all they did is go out and get Long Shelley and draft a cornerback late in the 4th round. Well, now you got a guy that might be starting in Jacorian Bennett that's looking flawless out there. You're allowing Hobbs to move back into his comfortable position of playing the slot. And you guys got guys like Shelley that are making plays behind him. People are talking about Sam Webb. Faison will be back, hopefully. The only one absent in this equation is Long. And again, at this point, he's not needed. So you got Tyler Hall. There's so many people that are raised. Their game has been lifted as well. But now we got some real depth. From an optimism perspective, we got a good starting young core led by a wily veteran that is a ball hawk and makes plays in Marcus Peters, and a slew of guys behind him that are ready to step up and play if their number's called. Both from the outside, the inside, and the back end with Epps and Merrick and Polamalu and possibly Chris Smith. We'll see. Roderick Teamer. There's some guys back there that'll come in and make plays. I'm intrigued. It's hard not to be optimistic, especially from a fanatic perspective. But this is why I do these videos every year, because this is where optimism at some point is going to meet reality. And my only concern is this is practice. This is something that's been happening in joint. You're seeing consistency, and it's something that we talked about here a lot over the years. Consistency and continuity, optimism and reality. These are some of the big words that I've tried to use over the course of years here on this channel, and more of the same. But I can't think of a time where the defense, even in practice, has been this consistent, and the word that's being thrown around right now is dominant. I'm not ready to say that yet until we see it for 4 quarters on a week-to-week basis, which I'm telling you, with Marcus Peters, Crosby, Spillane, and Epps on every level of this defense, and there's more, right? I'm not talking about the Chandler Jones, the Nate Hobbs, all that. what Diablo can be. We're not talking about any of that. We're just talking about, in my mind, 4 key players on that defense that are not only playing the game at its highest level and doing their job, they're raising the level of play around the people around them, and that is what makes good football teams. Crosby, Spillane, Epps, Peters, all guys doing that on that defense, and that's, in my opinion, where we're seeing the biggest change and the biggest rumbling is you got leaders of men. They don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk. It pays big dividends. Real quick, as I wrap this up, as we jump back over on the offensive side of the ball, Devontae is that dude, right? Devontae's that dude. Colton Miller's that dude. I would even say Andre James is that dude, right? And there's some other ones that are starting to step up that are being those dude across the front, right? Jimmy G, all reports saying, I'm not even talking about his quarterback play. I'm talking about his personality, his presence, him as a leader of men. He is raising the level of play about people around him. You're going to see this become infectious. It's going to spread. That's the idea. That's the culture in which, call it what you will, call it the Patriot way, the Raider way, the McDummy way, people call him McDummy. I don't care what it is. If it results into wins and leading us in the right direction, especially from a defensive perspective, something I've been wanting since I started YouTube, I have never been able to talk about the defense at a high level in a consistent basis since then. I have not. It's been nearly 6-7 years since I've had this channel, and not one time have I been able to talk up the defense outside of Khalil Mack and Max Crosby. That's it. There's been no consistency, no real effort, no real proven quality product on the football field that I'm thinking that we're going to get now. So I will always be the guy that has his glass half full, not half empty, until the bottom falls out. So am I going to start pounding the table for this defense, for this football team? You betcha. You betcha. I think there's plenty of reasons and room to be optimistic. Let's just let everything play out. Let's let reality hit. Let's see where we're standing when the smoke clears. And week 1, we're playing Denver. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. As far as tomorrow's game on Sunday against the Niners, look, we won the practices that matter, according to a lot of reporters on both sides, by the way. The Raiders look that good. We don't have anything to prove in this game. You want to build the culture of winning, so of course we're looking to win. I want to see a lot of these young players making plays, having opportunity. We got a lot of young players. Like a guy I'm interested in seeing is Turner on the offensive side of the ball. I'm really looking forward to seeing AOC and how he can take his first step into the NFL. A lot of rumblings about that guy, and he has a quick release. He's picking up on things. He's a very intelligent dude, well tested. He's really proven himself as far as being able to handle adversity. So I'm intrigued by the guy. I have no opinion one way or the other. He still has got to learn what it's like to be an NFL quarterback. Time will tell. I like the fact we don't have to push him. I'll have more to say about where the trajectory of AOC could be and whether or not we see him this year take that step. It might be something we're forced to look at. Well, it depends on Jimmy G's health. But I look forward to that. I'm looking for this defense. I'm looking for some of these younger guys. We've already talked about the big names that we've been hearing, right? Jacorian Bennett, Hobbs, Epps, Merrick, Peters. You got Jones, Chandler Jones. You got Max Crosby. You're hearing noise about Tillery. You still got Bilal Nichols. You're hearing some guys coming up like Neil Farrell. You got this guy Nessa. I'm really excited to see this guy live and see what he's bringing. You still got Young out there that we drafted. That's back at camp. We'll see how he's developing. So many pieces, so many different things that we could still look at, and just look at it from a play-by-play, position-by-position basis. Look for improvement. Look for camaraderie. These are going to be our depth guys that are out there. And if our depth guys start looking good and playing well as a unit, that only means competition is really high in camp. These guys are learning and growing too, and that just gives us depth heading into the season. That's really all this is about. We still want to win the football game. We want to build a culture of winning. I think we established that last year in the preseason. I want to see that continue. And I think it has something to say about our coaching staff. I do. Hate him all you want. I'm on the fence with the guy. He's got to prove it to me this year. He really, really does. I have to see all of this come together. Right now, it seems like it's working. I want to see it at the end of the season on how much it has. I want to see consistency and continuity and make this optimism that I have right now a reality. That's all I got to say. Stay tuned. I got a lot of things I want to talk to you guys about, not only from a football perspective, but a mission I'm on with Independently Blind, really helping to educate, advocate, motivate, and inspire people that are dealing with sight loss and disabilities and losses in general. You're going to be seeing a lot of those types of people coming together here to talk sports. I want to showcase the blind community, the autistic community. If you know anybody that has a disability that wants to talk sports, hit me up. You can hit me up right here on the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, stay Raider strong.